Aloha
All right.
kako. I see we have a good number of attendees already online. We're going to expect a couple more people to be joining, but certainly out of respect for everybody's time this evening, we want to go ahead and get started. So thank you for taking time to attend the meeting. I'm Christine Matsuda, and I might be a new face for some of you folks. I'm with Pa'akai Communications, and we have the privilege of assisting the Office of Recovery with some communications and community engagement work to help add a little bit of capacity. And so I'll be your moderator, sort of facilitator for the meeting this evening. And I'm just really thankful to all of you for the opportunity to be of service to your community. We'll just start with a couple of kind of housekeeping things. Thank you all for your flexibility with moving this to a virtual meeting tonight. We know there's a lot going on this week with lots of different sort of community meetings and other big things like the fair coming up tomorrow. So we thought it probably would be better to have a virtual meeting to free up this evening from in-person engagement for folks. Given that it's a virtual meeting, I think mostly everybody's familiar with the format, but just as a reminder, the chat is not enabled this evening, but the Q&A function is. And so we're going to ask folks to please put their questions in the Q&A box in the Zoom window. And we will be answering as many of them as we're able to on the second part of the meeting this evening. So we'll run through the presentations, and then we'll have time for Q&A at the end. We will, as we're able, go ahead and answer questions in writing as we go, to the extent that that's possible. But for sure, for the big questions that we want to make sure everybody has the chance to hear our response, we'll be addressing those at the end after the presentations and updates. So let's go ahead and get into the next slides. Okay, great. Mental health resources. As always, there are lots of resources that are available. We encourage folks to scan the QR code to reach out if you need help and find some resources that might be of use to you folks and to your friends and family. It's important for everyone to take really good care of themselves. Next slide. The Maui County Fair, as I just mentioned, is coming up this week, which is very exciting. And we're really looking forward to seeing everybody come out. Myself and my team will be there, and we're really excited about it too. Please stop by the county tent in front of the Sakamoto pool, and you'll have department tables, keiki area, lounge area, and we really hope that this is a joyful time where folks can come together and have a good time. Next slide. Okay, the state's disaster case management program, the DCMCs, DCMPs, will be holding a community and workforce recovery resource pop-up on October the 12th. That'll have survivor resources, building support, employment opportunities, food, music, keiki activities. So please do come by if any of those things sound like it'd be appealing and or useful to you. And another really fun event coming up, Lahaina Strong is hosting the Tent or Treat Makeke at Kala'iola. And it's important to note, right, this is open to the community, not just to residents. So this will be a really fun event coming up, 4:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. on Friday, October 31st for Halloween. Hui mo'olelo. Lahaina Art Exhibit. The Lahaina Art Exhibit is now open at the Lahaina Cannery Mall. The exhibit honors voices of Lahaina and displays watercolor portraits by artist Christine Wine of Lahaina and community members who participated in the Hui mo'olelo, the Lahaina Storytelling and Public Art Project. So this is what we'll be covering tonight. Mahalo again for joining us. We'll hear about the status of the wildfire debris transfer and TDS restoration plan. We'll look at the TDS environmental monitoring quarterly report. We'll hear about the Wahikuli gravity sewer design updates, and updates from the Office of Recovery, including Ho'okumu Hou, and an update on King Kamehameha III Elementary School. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we'll have time for Q&A at the end. For your calendars, next up, we're going to be back to the regular in-person meeting schedule on Wednesday, November 5th, 5:30 p.m. at Lahaina Intermediate School cafeteria. So we look forward to seeing you folks back in person at that meeting. Without further ado, Mayor Richard Bisson.
Mahalo, Christine, and aloha mai kako, Lahaina ohana. I want to really thank Pakai for their involvement and their work that they've helped us with. I want to thank all of our partners, all of those folks that have been, getting all this information ready to put out tonight and throughout the week. And you folks all know you can go to our websites and get information that way as well. Thank you for everyone who is on this call and agreed to be on this Zoom, because, as Christine just pointed out, the number of in-person meetings obviously was a lot to ask people to come together again tonight. So I appreciate that you are willing to get the information this way from our team. I do need to highlight the county fair in many, many ways. Something we had learned from the Kuhinia projects that we did on the first year remembrance was that the need for people to be together and get together and to unite and come together as community was really important. So this became a very big priority for the county, and thanks to the county council, Daryl Fujiwara of Lahaina, and his team for putting that together. So I just wanted to give a real big shout out to that. We have a large contingency of folks, and somewhere between 3,000, 3,500 people involved in the parade tomorrow. So please come out and watch the parade and come right into the fair and enjoy all the rides, the games, the food, the free entertainment, the vendors. And again, this is a big opportunity for our nonprofit community to earn money for their organization. So please come and support them. So many people will be helping the volunteers, selling tickets, doing parking, and of course, helping in the various booths. So a big shout out to everybody. It's going to be a great 4 days, a lot of great energy leading up to it. So I just encourage everyone to please come out to the county fair starting tomorrow and over the weekend. And again, I'll leave the rest of the time to the folks that are going to be reporting. I'm going to apologize in advance. I do have to be at an event at 6 p.m. tonight, so I won't be able to stay on this Zoom the entire time, but you will have Managing Director Josiah Nishita and, of course, Administrator John Smith being able to answer all of the questions that you may have about our recovery up to this point, and, of course, all of our other partners. So I just want to say thank you for everyone sticking together, and again, for being on this Zoom. Aloha.
Mahalo nui, Mayor. Councilmember Tamara Paulton is not available to join us this evening. I believe she's on travel. So thank you, as always, to Councilmember for all that she does. And we'll look forward to seeing her at the next community meeting in November. Next slide. Thank you very much. So let's get our updates from Lieutenant Colonel Adrian Biggerstaff.
Aloha, mahalo for being on tonight. We're really excited about presenting our restoration plan for the temporary debris storage site. That's primarily because we're at that phase, and we're at that phase because we've gotten a lot of great support from the community, and it is allowing us to hit that final completion of transferring debris around mid-October. And right after that, we're going to begin the restoration. And that's what this presentation is about tonight. A couple of things to point out, though, is after we're done with the Lahaina wildfire debris transfer, you will still see trucks coming in and leaving that site in our restoration efforts. You'll be seeing construction material being moved around. So there'll still be some trucks getting on the road even after we've declared complete on the Lahaina debris removal. So that's a key point, part of this presentation. If you have questions as I go through, please hold those to the end, or you can put those into the QA session so we can, hopefully my team can answer those as we go. Okay, so we're on the next slide already. Key takeaways from this slide, two things. One, just like every other phase of this operation, we have had amazing partnership with our federal, state, and county partners throughout the planning, so we're doing it right. And the second takeaway is that we are committed to a safe, stable, and environmentally responsible restoration. Next slide, please. This slide has two images. The image on the left, this shows what the site looked like before August of 2023. On the right, it shows what the current state of the site is. You'll see there's some paved roads, there's a scale house, there's monitoring wells, and a leachate collection pond. Really, the takeaway from all this presentation is we're removing nearly all of that and just leaving a few features that are going to make the site improved from how we found it. And that's really just going to be the drainage or the water control measures, and also the asphalt concrete road that we've put onto the site. Let's go and jump to the next slide. Okay, so this slide zooms in a bit onto the site, and you can see the positioning of the monitoring wells we have. And also to the top right, you can see a surface picture of what our monitoring well looks like. And all of these features on the right listed are what we're going to be pulling out of there. We'll stay on this slide for a minute if you want to read through all of that. But it's easier to say everything that we brought in is going to be removed, except for that asphalt concrete road and a few of those water control features. We can jump to the next slide. In case you haven't seen them, those scale trailers and the construction trailer, those will be pulled out along with that large water tank that you see in the top right of this slide. Those will all be pulled off the site during the restoration. Next slide. And the only thing remaining is, again, that asphalt road. And if you look on the bottom right, you'll see both the road and just to the left of that road, an erosion control dam to help prevent erosion on the site after we've left. And we'll be keeping those in place as per our license. Next slide, please. So our restoration must be environmentally responsible. And if you look at the list on the right side of this slide, you'll see all the things that we tested for as we started to mobilize onto this site. These are the same things we'll test for as we leave, both the soil and the water. You'll notice that we have a very, very large focus on the soil for the metals and the petroleum hydrocarbons. The metals are from the concern of any debris we brought up. We want to make sure we didn't leave any residual contamination. And those hydrocarbons, or the petroleum, is to make sure that as we have the equipment operating on the site and the trucks coming in and out of the site, we didn't leave any petroleum contamination there either. Next slide. So these final three slides are just going to show a few of the features that we're going to restore back to the original condition. On the left side of this slide, you'll see that we have made a gravel road that just comes off of the asphalt road we placed. And that was originally a swell that had drainage that went through it. We're going to remove that material that we placed to create the road and allow that drainage to take that area so that it was in the same condition as when we first found it. And to the right, you'll see there is a gate that we had to remove to help the operations and mobility around the site. We will replace that gate. If we go to the next slide, and there are three other gates that we're highlighting that will all be hung back and put into the original position so that the site can be properly secured as it's being taken back. All right, two more slides to go, or one more slide. These are pointing out a few more features along the road. To enable operations, we had to remove a section of the guardrail early on. We'll be replacing that section that we removed as we close out of the site. And to the right of that slide, you'll see a few other items. We'll be restriping the road in that area just to increase the visibility of the lines. And then also on the right, there's a concrete swell for drainage along the road's system. We'll be removing the asphalt we placed there for on and off ramp to allow that drainage to once again move down that swell. So again, we really appreciate all the cooperation we've gotten from you all. And as we go into this final phase, we will look forward to keeping you updated on the status and answering any questions that you have. But as we come close and seeing an end at the end of the year, we're very, very appreciative for all of your support throughout this operation. And again, later tonight, we're happy to answer any questions that you have. And with that, I'll turn the brief back over.
Mahalo nui, Lieutenant Colonel, and we really appreciate the updates and all of the hard work that your team has been doing to move that along and deliver as promised. So thank you very much for your work. Next, we have the Department of Environmental Management, Shane Agawa.
Aloha, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight, I'll be just reporting out on our TDS sampling and monitoring data. This is the 7th report out, the period from July 16th to October 14th. Next slide, please. Most of you here know about Bill 120. For those of you who do not know about Bill 120, Bill 120 was passed in January of last year, and it requires the county to share data of monitoring and just readings at the TDS site in Oluwalu. The latest update that we're reporting out tonight is from September 29th. I know it says October 14th. That's when the official reporting period is due. We're just sharing tonight with a broader audience what we have up until September 29th. Next slide, please. So one of the requirements is to report on air quality monitoring. The number you see in parentheses is the section of Bill 120 that this addresses. I'm just going to go over high-level points, key takeaways that's highlighted in green. So as of the start of the debris transfer, you can see in the graph of the right, we started approximately June 16th. Those are the air quality monitoring readings. The orange is the particulate size, and the dashed orange is the action level. So you can see the bar graph in orange are well below the action level. In blue is another particulate size. And as you can see on the top, the blue dashed line, we're well below the action level. So in a nutshell, levels are well below levels of concern. Next slide, please. Another requirement is to report on leachate. There hasn't been much rainfall in the area. Next slide. These are just some of the parameters that we test for. This was particulates and substances found in the debris of Lahaina. Next slide, please. The last sampling date was February 3rd. That's due because there hasn't been much rainfall. As you can see, the picture, the leachate pond is fairly dry. The table on the right shows that there's 0 gallons of leachate in the leachate pond as of October 1st. Next slide, please. Another requirement is stormwater control. This is to prevent any of leachate created to get into nearshore waters. Leachate has not been generated, therefore no stormwater has entered any ditches or surface waters in the area. Next slide. As Lieutenant Colonel Biggerstaff mentioned, there are groundwater monitoring wells. We do take data from those. We sampled those. The latest sampling event was August 5th of 2025, and there has been no levels of concern detected. Next slide. This is a QR code for those of you who are interested in reviewing Bill 120, any of the data, all the quarterly reports up to this one, which is number 7. The first 6 you can find on there. You can click on this QR code and it'll take you to the website on Maui Recovers. Just to remind you again, the official reporting period is October 14th. So we will be updating the data that's shown on Maui Recovers from this data here on September 29th, and we'll update it up until the reporting period. Other than that, I'll be around to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Mahalo nui. We really appreciate the updates. Next, EPA, Sarah Petroza.
There I am. Sorry, my internet was not letting me turn my camera off. Aloha, everyone. My name is Sarah Pedroza. I'm US EPA Region 9's Disaster Recovery Coordinator. Today, I just have a very brief update on our Wahikuli Gravity Sewer Design Project. So for those of you who don't know, through FEMA funding, EPA was asked to provide shovel-ready sewer design to the County of Maui to support about 230 households that are currently serviced by cesspools and septic, to be able to connect to county sewer, expediting the rebuild process and to get those residents off of cesspools. So the sewer design process, we did an update in August, and we also held a community workshop on September 9th with specifically the Wahikuli residents to provide an update on the 30% designs. So I wanted to provide a brief update from those meetings. The sewer design is still anticipated to be completed in spring of 2026. We have our 60% designs that are going to be due November 7th. So we're making great progress, and we have received a lot of great feedback from our community so far. With that, at our 30% design benchmark, we developed a site plan where we showed Wahikuli residents where the sewer lines would run and anticipated connections for their laterals. And so that map is available on mauirecovers.org /wastewater. This is the map that is shown here. And part of that is that we asked for feedback as much as possible. Our contractor has been very careful to work with the county to identify pre-existing conditions to carefully place where those lateral connections are. But as people are rebuilding, we understand that there may be underlying issues that we aren't well aware of. And so we asked for feedback. If at all possible, we could incorporate that feedback into the design and possibly change the location of your lateral if it's feasible to the design. To be able to make sure that we keep on track and on target, we do need to get input from the community if there needs to be any additional changes to the lateral connections by October 8th. So in about 1 week by noon on October 8th. And again, the reasoning of this is that we need to be able to feel confidently in moving forward with the design process. And so we wanted to just provide you the update that we have about a week to receive more input. For those of you who have not or who have reached out to us already, we have a log of all of that correspondence, and we will get back to you by November with the decision if we have not done so already. So again, if you've reached out to us, no need to reach out to us again. But for those who have yet to do so and have any concerns, you can reach out to us on the mauirecovers.org /wastewater. You also will see that there is a link where you can actually get the specific coordinates of where that preliminary placement of your lateral connection is anticipated as of the 30% designs. And you could actually take that coordinate and put it into, Google Maps or another platform, put that lat long in, and it'll give you about a 5 to 10 foot proximity of where that could be to give you a better idea on your property. I have some contact information that somehow fell off of my slides, so I will put it in the chat or provide it to those after, but with contact information with how you can get a hold of us to provide us that feedback on your lateral connections. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for that reminder that there is that deadline coming up, the 1 week from today, the 8th, to submit any additional manal that folks might have for that design. So please do, if you have something that you'd like to share that you want incorporated into their work, please make sure that you get that input submitted to the EPA so that it'll get included. Okay, next up, updates from the Office of Recovery, Administrator John Smith and Jeannie Sutton.
Thanks, Christine. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time out to be here with us tonight. Here's the latest numbers from Permit World. We'd love to give you these so that everyone understands how far folks have moved with the construction. Right now, we have 65 complete, 502 issued, and 335 are in process. It's great to see 290 homes that are under construction. And with our Ho'okumu Hou programs that we're going to talk about in just a couple more slides, we're going to add to that number. But that's where we are as of today. You can find these stats constantly updated on our Maui Recovers website. Last night or yesterday afternoon, we held the Lahaina Town Commercial Area Open House. We are very grateful for the attendance. If you weren't able to make it, there's additional ways for folks to see all of those materials. We'll have a slide here in a minute for that, but it was great to be there. We were able to answer lots and lots of questions about the commercial area, providing clear guidance for how things are moving forward. and how the town will be coming back. And it was just an exciting time to be there. And again, just happy that those that were there were able to interact so well with the team and give us additional feedback so that we get it right. We think we're heading in the right direction. We think things are becoming clearer and clearer as we go. So thank you so much for attending. Next slide, please. And if you have additional feedback, maybe you weren't able to make it, or if you want to add in your thoughts for us, go ahead and scan this code here, and it will help take an additional input for that effort in the commercial area. So thank you for that. It'll be open until October 10th. So if you didn't have a chance and you want to go see stuff, please log in and do that. We'll keep it moving. We are working with DLNR and harbors. So right now, happy to announce that the harbor office demolition is in progress. It is actually scheduled to be complete by end of October. I know they've made a lot of good progress on that. You have a couple photos there to kind of show where things are. Assuming that moves forward and the comfort station completes its scheduled update so that they can open. That's supposed to happen by mid-November. They're waiting on some materials to come in. And we can finish the county's side of like the parking management and signage work. We are shooting for a soft opening later this year for the harbor. So that's something that is still moving forward. We're working with Dolbar, we're working with operators, but wanted you folks to know that that is the direction that we're heading for the harbor. Next one is the Ho'okumu Hou programs. You've heard us talk a lot about these programs. This is the CDBGDR programs. This is all about bringing our folks home. All of those that can't find their path to rebuild, we are doing our best with these programs to rebuild. So really it's, it's reimagine, reconstruct, just like it says here, the source of community as our ohana return. So we want this program to get into all the spaces where folks can't come back. And that's what it's intended to do. So the programs that we've launched so far, you're going to hear all the stats from them from Jeannie. Just in a minute, I'm sure a lot of you will recognize her. We'll go through where we are with the HOT program and then into the recon program. So I'll turn it over to Jeannie. Thank you so much for all of those that have signed up. And I'll say one little plug. I talked to several people at the meeting last night, and we ended up talking about these programs. But a few people were realizing as I was talking to them that, hey, maybe the reimbursement program and maybe the recon program are for me. So I know that there's a lot of people kind of like, oh, I don't know if this is for me or not. Sorry. We want you to know that, like, if you think it might be for you, please come into the center and please sign up, and we may be able to find a way to help you. So Jeannie, I'll turn it over to you, but thank you so much for the participation again tonight. Aloha.
Aloha, everyone, and mahalo for joining us in this virtual setting this evening. So as John mentioned, we did have an outstanding turnout of applications for the HOP program. And due to that number of applications, we did close the program yesterday. So we're going to go over a little bit about the numbers on the program. Keep in mind for HOP applications, we are working to process those applications as quickly as possible. Individuals who were displaced by the fire and have income at or below 80% of the area median income are being prioritized in those applications. Keep in mind, if you weren't able to get all of your documents in before the application window closed, that is okay. The program specialist will be working with you to bring out all of those documents and make sure that we get everything uploaded that is needed for the program. So as of the close last night, we received 2,730 total applications. Again, the program specialists are processing those as quickly as possible. So far, we have completed the initial document review of about 249 cases. And so far, we have preliminary eligibility status for about 91 cases. That does not mean that the final eligibility has been determined. We'll continue to work through that process and get those over to the county for final review before we are able to send out those shopping letters. Next slide. So just a little bit of a reminder about how the process works on the, now that the applications have closed, again, folks are working through processing those. That process to be assigned a program specialist could take up to 2 weeks. You should be hearing from someone pretty quickly. They might ask you for some documents. The faster that you are able to respond and provide documents that are needed, that is going to be beneficial for the program and everyone that's participating. So make sure you're being responsive to your program specialist. Once all that initial intake is done and you are determined to be eligible, then you would receive a shopping letter if you are eligible. You would have about 6 months to go out and search for a home. If you're not able to get a pre-approval for a mortgage, keep in mind you can go through individual mortgage counseling. You have about 6 months to do that, to get mortgage ready, and then proceed on to that shopping letter from there. Once you've found a house, you need to let your program specialist know. They will do the necessary compliance checks and environmental review process for the house that you selected. And then from there, you'll be able to execute your agreement and prepare for closing. And then it takes about a month from there until you would actually close on your home. Keep in mind, we do still have 2 other programs for Ho'okumu Hou still open. Single family reconstruction. Again, this is ideal for homeowners that have not yet begun construction, provides up to $1.2 million in assistance to reconstruct a home that was destroyed. Applications are still open for that. You can still walk into the Lahaina and Kahului locations for outreach centers and talk with someone if you have questions, like John mentioned. Even if you think this program might not be for you, come on in, talk to someone, and find out more information, and there may be some pathway there for you. For single family homeowner reimbursement, this program is still open as well. This program is intended for individuals that have finished reconstruction and are interested in seeking reimbursement for some of those costs. So the program can provide up to $400,000. Same story, come on in, talk to the program specialist, submit an application. If you have any questions, certainly don't hesitate to reach out. The outreach centers are going to be changing their hours, so want to make an important note of that. So effective Monday, October 6th, the hours will be changing from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Appointments are still available after hours. So if you work and aren't able to get there until after 5 p.m. or you need to meet with someone on a Saturday maybe, you can absolutely still schedule appointments. Appointments are available online, or you can just call the center up or walk in. Whatever works best for you. We want to be accessible and available in the hours that are going to be helpful for you. So keep in mind, we will have program specialists at the county fair. So if you are there enjoying some awesome rides and food, we will be at the county tent answering questions. We're able to submit applications for reimbursement and reconstruction right then and there at the county fair as well. So swing on by. We're excited to see you guys. And we also might have some handouts like pens and things related to the program. So be sure to stop by and just say hi or ask your questions there as well. And of course, you can always visit the Ho'okumu Hou website. There's the QR code there if you want to scan it right now. All of the program documents, policies, and additional information about the program is available on the website. Great. Thank you so much to John and Jeannie for all of those important updates. And we see your questions coming in, folks, and thank you very much for all of the Office of Recovery and Ho'okumu Hou questions that are being submitted. We will be working through those once we get into the Q&A, and we really appreciate how thoughtful those questions are. So next up, State of Hawaii Department of Education.
Aloha. I'm Tammy Chun, Deputy Superintendent for the Hawaii Department of Education, and I'm here today to provide an update on the King Kamehameha III Elementary Replacement School. I'm joined today by Rebecca Winke, Complex Area Superintendent, as well as Scott Glenn from the Governor's Office. Today we're doing this report and update to you in partnership with the County of Maui, the State of Hawaii, and Kamehameha Schools. You can advance the slide, please. So as you all know, we have been in the process of um, identifying a site for a replacement school and then being able to construct the replacement school, and we want to really do it in a timely way. Um, so last fall, there was community outreach, and I wanted to let Rebecca Winkie, Complex Area Superintendent, refresh your memory and summarize the findings from the community outreach.
Thank you, Tammy. As many of you may recall, we had 3 community meetings during 2024. In May of 2024, we met with faculty and staff of King Kamehameha Third Elementary, and then also met with the community at large. And then we met with them again in November of 2024. In our original meeting in May, we were looking at 3 potential sites: the original Front Street location, the Pulelehua temporary site, and the Kaanapali 2020 Pu'ukoli'i Village Malka. During that set of meetings, the feedback in general was that about 2/3 preferred the original site. Approximately 1/3 preferred the Pulelehua temporary site, and the majority did not prefer the Kaanapali 2020 site. We scheduled another meeting in November because at that time the Front Street site location was no longer on the table, but we shared Pulelehua, and then we added a new site at Kuia for consideration. Between the series of community meetings, we ended up also having 485 completed feedback surveys. Next slide, please. In the final community meeting in November 2024, 51% preferred the Kuia site and 45.7% preferred Pulelehua. I forgot to mention in the first series of meetings, the highest consideration was tradition and history and sentimental value for the original Front Street site. In the November meetings, the issues contributing to location preference in highest priority was traffic and emergency access, then location convenience, ability to expand, and history and tradition moved to 4th. Next slide. Prior to the wildfires on August 8th, the registration for King Kamehameha Third was 679 students. And for Nahian'ena, I'm sorry, I got that backwards. For Nahian'ena was 679, and for Kamehameha 3 was 604. The next time we took a check on the enrollment in spring of 2024, Nahian'ena had dropped to 458, and King Kamehameha Third had dropped to 265. It has gradually rebounded to the current enrollment just last week. Nahian'ena had 511 students, and King Kamehameha Third had 422 students. Back to you, Tammy.
So one thing that's important about the enrollments is first that we see our families and our students returning to Lahaina. And the other is that as the enrollments have grown and we expect them to continue to grow, that the combined enrollment of the schools exceeds either a potential new school as well as the existing Princess Nahian'ena site. So we really are looking for a location to build a replacement school. So which brings us to the discussion today. Next slide, please. This map shows you some of the different sites that were discussed that Kaz Winkie gave feedback on, just to show you geographically the distances. So the star, kind of on the bottom right, represents the original Front Street location. If you follow the red line up road up to the left, Site A is the temporary school at Pulelehua, which is about 7 miles away. And then the Site B, which is the blue road above the original site, that is the Ku'ia site, which is about 0.6 miles away from the original school. So we definitely, when we think about where the school should be located, these are considerations in terms of replacing our French Street location. Next slide. So as you saw, that Ku'ia was one of the was preferred relative to the Pulelehua site in the November surveys. And in the Department of Education, in working with the governor's office, has been discussing and planning on where the replacement school should be built. And currently we're moving forward ahead with the Ku'ia site, planning for the Ku'ia site. So you can see here on the map where the site is located. So it's Ku'ia site, Makai of the bypass road. It is Mauka of a lot of the services that our children use, which includes the Boys and Girls Club as well as the Aquatic Center. And you can see the positioning there relative to other locations in Lahaina. Okay. One of the things that's really important about this partnership is we're not building a traditional new school. We are replacing our school on Front Street. And we appreciate the governor's partnership and the partnership of the legislature, both which are necessary to make sure that we're able to fund the construction of the new school. And we are on a timeline because of the temporary site having a deadline, which we'll get to at the end. Okay, next slide, please. This is a conceptual drawing of what the school could look like at the site. You might remember that Kaz Winke said that one of the main concerns in the November feedback from the community was traffic and emergency access. And so this gives you information about what the ingress and egress, so access to the school and the various exits would look like. Okay, next slide. So here's some information about the proposed Ku'ia site. I am going to ask Scott Glenn from the governor's office to speak a little more about the details regarding the site and construction. I know it's small, but hopefully you'll be able to read it on your device. I'm going to hand it over to Scott.
Thank you very much, Tammy. Aloha, everyone, and thank you for letting us be here tonight. My name is Scott Glenn with the Office of the Governor and supporting the Department of Education, along with the Department of Accounting and General Services, and moving forward with looking at this location for the school. A few more details here in terms of thinking about the location. As Tammy mentioned, it's about 0.6 miles directly Mauka of the original location in the Moku where King Kamehameha III lived. It's outside the special management area and the sea level rise exposure area and the tsunami inundation zone. And it's something that we've been thinking a lot about in terms of emergencies and risk management. Looking at sustainability, we're looking at using native plants for the planting of the area and reducing fire risk hazards around the school and in that area, using PV and better design principles, like trying to get to LEED Silver, and if we have the funding for LEED Gold certification. We're also looking at the connectivity of the site with the surrounding areas, so access to the Boys and Girls Club, the Aquatic Center, these different facilities that nearby the students use and the parents use for helping with their children, allowing the kids to more easily walk and bicycle between these places. How can we better design those greenways? And then the school itself using precast concrete These are things that help reduce fire risk and improve resilience to hurricanes and other winds and storm damage. These are all different aspects of some of the design that we've been looking at for how to bring this school back in a way that respects the concerns that we've heard from the community over the 2 surveys. Tammy, I can turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Okay, we can have the next slide, please. In terms of the cost of putting up the new school, we are looking at about $162 million. That would be funded by a combination of FEMA funds, as well as insurance proceeds and state funds. So it'd be a capital improvement request to the legislature for the upcoming legislative session. And then there'd be support from federal highways funds for roadways. But for the school itself, we're looking at needing we're looking at a combination of funds and again, funding that would need to be appropriated in the upcoming legislative session to build the school. Next slide. In terms of the timeline, the plan moving forward is to begin at the Kuya site with cultural and environmental surveys. So this is doing initial work to prior to receiving the funding for the site and prior to the design, permitting, and construction. We would be looking to do the design, permitting, and construction next year. And again, we meaning the partnership primarily between the governor's office and DAG's Department of Accounting and General Services with DOE. Then we'd be targeting a school opening for August of 2028. And that would be like 2 school years from now. Yes, 2 school years from now, being able to move into the new site. We are in a timeline here because the temporary school, which was supported through FEMA, the leases for the modulars there end in February of 2029. So those are, from the Department of Education's point of view, we are really happy for everyone to come together to help us get a replacement school for your students and your community, both for meeting this deadline that we're on, as well as having this very important community resource, and that we know that you're looking forward to. So with that, I wanted to end maybe I'll answer a few questions. We'll see if we can answer a few questions. One of the questions, yes, the school will have a kitchen. And then another question was about what happens to the temporary school site. So the current contract is for FEMA and the Army Corps is that at the end of the project that the Army Corps would restore the site to its prior status. So they would remove the modulars, then they would put the site back. So, and then there was a question about where students would go. So where students live versus the school site. So for, at this time, we are expecting the students who attended King Kamehameha III prior to the fire, if you had lived in the zone for King Kamehameha III, that was your school. It would still be it's your school at Pulelehua now, and it would be your school at Ku'ia. One of the considerations or one of the pieces of feedback we got in the community meeting was that many people asked to build 2 schools. A second potential school, another possible school in West Maui is on the drawing board, and that is a consideration as more housing gets developed and more families return to Lahaina. So that's not off the table, but that's not currently in planning stages. Okay. Those are the questions I saw related to the school that are on the Q&A. So with that, we expect to continue to have more opportunities and updates regarding the school. So this is not the last word on the school, but we wanted to make sure the community was aware. It's been quite a while since the community meetings happened and the feedback happened. Wanted to give you that update. And also there'll be some initial surveys and work on the site over the next coming months. And so you're informed about why that's happening. Okay, great. Thank you. Back to you, Christine.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tammy. While we have you folks here, there's another question that came in from Lauren about the water. Where is the water coming from for the school? Wondering if anybody on our panel is prepared to answer that, or if not, then we can follow up with you, Lauren.
I can answer that in part, and someone from the county might also be able to answer. But the water, the reason that we're going to be able to get water for the school is because the school on Front Street, where the water that was committed there is going to be going to this new site. I can't speak to the details, but perhaps somebody else on the panel can, or we can get back. Get back.
Yeah, I can confirm that I don't think water supply is on tonight, but the plan is to use the water from the old school and just move those credits up to this site. And then this school will be more efficient with water usage, et cetera. But from discussions we've had with water supply, there is ample supply for this school.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. So let's go through some more of the questions that have been submitted. Let's go ahead and get into more Q&A. I'm gonna kind of try to work a little bit chronologically here and to the best of our ability, group questions together that are related or relevant. If we don't answer your question fully and you feel like we've left something out or you have a follow-up, please go ahead and put those follow-up questions in the Q&A function, and we'll just keep going until we either run out of time or get all of your questions answered. All right, so first is a question about FEMA. What is the likelihood that FEMA will extend the direct lease program beyond next February? Josiah or John, could I ask you guys to tag in on that one?
Thank you, Christine. This is Josiah. I'll start, and if John has anything else to add. A request did go in for an extension. We've been following up with FEMA and providing any additional information that's needed, as well as justification for the request. And we're in constant communication with them and advocating for our residents to get that extension. So as soon as we know, we hope it'll be sometime soon here so people can plan accordingly. But we are asking them for a favorable determination on the extension request and hope to hear back from them soon.
Yeah, thank you, Josiah. And then there's a related question that maybe if I can paraphrase a little bit here, what's the backup plan if there is not an extension? So the question says, if the program does not extend, where will everyone go? Where will everyone live? Acknowledging that there are about 800 units currently housing people in the direct lease program.
Thank you, Christine. I'll add, and if John or anybody else has anything to add, the state, our federal officials and county officials have a working group to work through some of those issues regarding alternative plans. Some of the things that FEMA has asked for is in our extension request is to ensure that the rebuilding process, as well as moving people from temporary units to permanent units, that there's a pathway for that, and that we're streamlining that process to the extent possible. So we're providing additional justification and guidance to FEMA in terms of that. In terms of the additional housing support and whatnot that would be needed, that would be in coordination with the state, the county, and our other nonprofit partners to provide additional assistance in addition to responsibilities on homeowners themselves. So it would be a joint collaborative effort. Our goal is to seek and achieve that extension request, and then work with our property owners to return to their properties as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, mahalo, Josiah. John, I'm going to direct this next one to you. When will the county allow commercial properties to rebuild on their land to help provide jobs and restoration of that heart of the community?
Thanks, Christine, and thanks, Josiah, for I'll just hit a little bit more on what Josiah was saying from the last question. The Office of Recovery sits on a temporary to permanent task force with FEMA and the state, and we are actively working through, just like Josiah said, all the contingency planning. But we are still very hopeful that that extension request will be granted to buy another year. But in terms of commercial activity, there are a number of permits that are in the system right now. Some have been approved. We expect that additional will be approved very shortly. So in terms of the question, right now is when people can start. And we've recently provided additional guidance to make it clearer and clearer for folks to get to the point of approval so they can start construction. We talked a lot about that at the open house last night with a ton of people that were there, and we'll continue to talk about that and provide updates on that. But the process for rebuilding and the permit center that Four Leaf is helping us with is applicable directly to those units as well. So everything that we can do to speed up that process is in place right now. So the answer is now, but we have to have people apply. And I know a lot of people are waiting for some certainty on the roads and some other things. We've cleared that up. So we do expect things to move more quickly now. Thank you for that question.
Okay, John, keep your camera on because I have another question for you. There are actually two asking specifically about Puamana. So we may need to tag Four Leaf in on this one, but the question is, why are there 0 permits for the homes in Puamana? We're told the county keeps changing the rules.
I'm sorry. So my understanding that the planning department has signed off on Puamana permits for all those that are not right on the ocean. I believe that's moved forward, but there are a couple issues with water that need to be resolved, but I can't get into the details of exactly without talking to water supply and the fire department. But I understand there is a path forward for those to have approval. So we can follow back up with that one and answer that question to the Puamana folks and pull in whoever else needs to be pulled in to resolve that particular issue.
Yeah, mahalo for that. And then the second related Puamana question, I think takes us into the Ho'okumu Hou question territory. So we're going to have a bunch of questions kind of following up on that. The question is, Puamana had a few residents and they did lose their home. And it's a planned community, not a condo. So this is a question about whether there are programs and services to rebuild or support rebuilding for folks that are not a single family home and not a condo.
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's one that we are continuing to work with. I know Jeannie can jump in here too, and I also talked to several people about this particular question last night. We have our 3 programs. Jeannie can go back through those. Not every like condo type unit fits in that program neatly, so we're currently working with HUD on some exceptions to make those become eligible that aren't. So that's in progress, and we got to remember that these are all income eligible based programs to start with. So I'll say, like, everybody that's in the burn zone, we can find a way to make it fit. That's what we're working towards. Some of it doesn't fit neatly, so we are having to work with HUD and advocate for how we can kind of work it into the reimbursement or the reconstruction programs. And if that doesn't work, we're also looking at how we could engage directly with the associations or the folks that own the larger complex. And there's some potential pathways to help there too. But Jeannie, you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I would just encourage everyone to go into the centers or call and talk through their individual case. There is potentially some confusion out there about like if your property is zoned as a condo, but you're a single family dwelling unit. So again, we'll have to look at each one of those individually and make a determination, but definitely go in, like John said, there's lots of little nuances to each of these condo complexes. So we're happy to take a look at those and figure out what is the best pathway for each of those.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're going to get into some more Ho'okumu Hou questions. This community member says, I applied. The home we rent didn't burn down, but it's within the burn zone, less than 8 houses away, and sustained significant smoke damage. That's why I interpreted it as destroyed, not in the literal sense of collapse, but due to the level of smoke exposure. How does Ho'okumu Hou define destroy in terms of qualifying for the program? Jeannie, do you want to take that?
I can, yes. So thanks, Christine. So this one I wanted to answer verbally since there's a couple of little caveats here. So the first one is it appears that this home in this scenario is a rental home, which means that this individual is probably or could be applying for the first-time homebuyer assistance program. Just want to reiterate that any household that resided in the burn zone at the time of the fire and has a household income at 80% AMI or less is considered top priority for the homebuyer assistance program. So if this is a rental application or for a renter applying for HOP, even if the home itself wasn't destroyed, if the home was located in the burn zone, that still meets the priority requirements. For anyone who is applying for reconstruction assistance and owns the home is considered destroyed if it is determined to be uninhabitable by the county's permitting team. So if you've gotten notice that it cannot be occupied, then we would consider the home to be destroyed.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me go ahead and check that one off. Thank you. So next question, also on Ho'okumu Hou, so we'll keep you guys handy, Jeannie and John. What is the time frame for HOP applications to be processed and approved?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, we are processing applications as they are rolling in. We are hoping that we can start to issue those first shopping letters within the next week.
And then, Jeannie, can you also clarify the prioritization tiers? There's a question here for first-time home buyers, what is really the AMI percentage that we're looking for those programs? So maybe if you could just walk us through how all of that kind of fits together and how prioritization is determined.
Sure. So for the HOP programs, prioritization, again, for priority 1 is based on households that were displaced by the fire, have a household income at or below 80% of the area median income. Priority 2 are households that were displaced and have an income up to or at or below 120% of the area median income. All of the prioritizations are listed on the program website, and we can certainly put a link to that. The specific income limits are also listed on the website as well. So that is a good reference point if you're not quite sure which priority bucket that you fit in. For reconstruction, first priority are individuals who have age-dependent household members and income at or below 80% and obviously had a home that was destroyed by the fire. And then it kind of goes up from there with income in the same way that the HOP program does. I would refer everyone to the program website for this very detailed specifics and the income chart.
Okay, and just one other follow-up question that's related. The question from the attendee is, when will Office of Recovery be processing phase 2?
For the homebuyer assistance program, HOP program, we do not know when or if the county will reach phase 2 yet. We're still evaluating where all of the applications fall within the phases. Again, priority for phase 1 will be be tackled first, and then everyone will be notified if and when the county is able to start processing those second phase applications.
And can I just add to, you know, 20, how many, was it 2,700 applications? So it's taken a little bit more time to go through it. That's actually more than we thought was going to sign up. And also, as soon as we know that there's going to be a cutoff, we will let everyone know what's going on. So you're not waiting for months and months like that. That's not the intention. So we're processing it as quickly as we can so that people know what the deal is. So thank you for your patience.
Okay, mahalo. So I know some folks who are on the meeting tonight might just be listening and not able to monitor the Q&A function. So I'm just going to give a little bit of an update that a lot of the questions that are being asked are being answered in writing as we are also answering questions live in the webinar. So if you get a chance, maybe click into that Q&A box and scroll through because there's a lot of really good information in there. And if we can work through all of the open questions, either in writing or verbally on the webinar here, then I'll go back into the questions that have been answered in writing, but not verbally, so that we can make sure that if anybody's just on audio, that we can bring some of those important questions back up. But we're doing our best to just make sure that everybody is able to be responded to in one way or another. So thanks for bearing with us. Here's another question for the group. This might be for some of our county colleagues. How can the county assist property owners who are unable to maintain their properties? There are several properties that have overgrown weeds and standing water, which presents a health concern for their neighbors.
I'll jump in. I don't have a specific this is how to do it, but we are working with a number of nonprofits to fill gaps. So a program like that wouldn't be like necessarily like a Ho'okumu Hou program, but we have a number of other things that we're helping fund either through grants or through nonprofits. So I love questions like that because it helps us to stay on top of the actual need that's there right now. I actually had quite a few conversations just about operational things like that also yesterday at the community meeting. But you know, standing water is an issue. We don't want, you know, we don't want mosquitoes to become a big deal. And then we also want to make sure that folks can and do maintain their vacant lot. So that's something that we'll take up and take back to our other funders and our other nonprofits to help with that. And maybe we can give an update on a program like that at our next meeting. Thank you for that.
And we have another clarifying question about the prioritization. So this question says, if you're applying for the reimbursement program, how does that priority work? So we're still in the universe of the Ho'okumu Hou program. Jeannie, can you clarify if there's a different prioritization tier system for each of the three programs? And if so, what are the differences?
Yeah, so reconstruction and reimbursement do have the same prioritization criteria. So again, for reconstruction or reimbursement, prioritization is individuals that have a household income at or below 50% AMI and or age-dependent household members, meaning kupuna or children, or persons with a disability. Then from there, it goes to individuals that have 80% AMI or less and those other household characteristics. And then from there up in the income brackets to 120 to 140% of the area median income. And I will reply in writing so that the table is there. That might help with some of the clarification as well.
Okay, yeah, super, Jeannie. Thank you very much. Maybe if you want to put that in the chat function, we can share information with the attendee audience through that box. Okay. So let's see. Is there a plan for second entrance in and out of Kukuia? Sorry, I thought that said Kukuia for a second. Kukuia apartments. We see many people making U-turns on the bypass to enter.
I'll have to get, I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on that one. I need to look into that before I can respond.
Okay, thanks, John. We'll mark that one for follow-up. Thank you. Okay, so here's a FEMA question again. FEMA placed a unit on our property and we moved in last month. Our caseworker is telling us that if we don't have a permit, that we have to look for a place to live other than the unit on our property as FEMA ends in February. Is this correct information? And why take over a year to install this unit only to be told to move out in 5 months?
I mean, I don't want to speak for FEMA. I can just say that we are continuing to work with them on these programs. Again, we're working on that extension. So we'll continue to keep the community updated as soon as we can, as soon as we know we have that. And yeah, I mean, it's obviously not logical for it to just get there and not continue to stay there for a little while. So thank you for that question, but we'll continue to update you as soon as we can.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. New topic introduced in the Q&A, the settlement. Percentage-wise, how much of the $4 billion settlement is being used for programs, or is the majority going back to insurance carriers?
So just for clarity, the Ho'okumu Hou programs are entirely separate from the settlement. So that program is funded through HUD, appropriated by Congress, directly to the county, and it is completely separate from anything to do with the settlement. So I think that answers itself.
Okay, is there anything anybody else might like to add with respect to what the settlement funds, where the settlement funds are going? Now that we've clarified that the Ho'okumu Hou program is totally separate.
Hey, Christina, I don't want to speak for our attorneys or anything, but just regarding the overall settlement, that's going to be determined, like that subrogation issue with the insurance companies is going to be determined kind of separate and apart from us. I believe, and do not quote me on this, but I believe the last one of the last rulings was in relation to the subrogation claims and how they can deal with insurance carriers trying to maybe reclaim or recoup some of the funding that was provided to survivors. But those will be dealt with separately and apart from the county. It's going through the judicial system.
And next question, which I agree is a very good one. Can we bring FEMA to the next meeting? There are a bunch of FEMA questions that have come up tonight.
We're happy to continue to extend invitation to FEMA to these meetings. Are they here tonight? Not on the panel? And Josiah.
Sorry, John, let me just cut in there. Yes, they are. They usually are at our in-person community meetings, but they could not be here tonight. So we anticipate them to continue being at our community.
Yeah, we'll make sure they come for the next one. Typically they actually are here, and we're careful not to speak for them. But I just wanted to get back to Josiah for a second, jokingly. We are recording this, so you kind of are on the record, Josiah.
Yeah, and I'll just add too that we certainly are happy to round up all of the FEMA questions and give them to the appropriate point of contact at FEMA so that we can have some information pulled together. And, absolutely at the next meeting, bring that information back, and hopefully we'll have FEMA representatives available to attend and answer questions live at the next meeting. Okay, so I think we're going back to a couple of Ho'okumu Hou questions. So if I believe this is, well, I'm actually not sure if this is for the first time homebuyer program or all three programs that are currently, in the works. But the question is, if the majority of applications are at 80% AMI, does that mean that those at 120% AMI would likely not get funded?
Yes, that is a possibility.
Okay, thank you. next question. I'm looking at these two notes together, so please, I apologize if I get any of this mixed up because there are two pieces that go together. Wahikuli Road has become extremely clustered with traffic and construction vehicles due to residents rebuilding. There has been several accidents at the bottom of Wahikuli Road. When is Leili'i Parkway going to open to help with residents exiting the Wahikuli community?
Yeah, it's a great question. We can also ask the State Department of Transportation to join us and some others that are more involved. I don't want to answer that question just for the county, and there's others involved in that discussion, but we're happy to bring that discussion up to the front of the table in the next month or so.
Okay, thank you, John. So there's a question here that was just entered. Are teachers going to recover the loss of classroom artifacts and resources that they lost during the fire? The question asked from the insurance settlement the state received, but I think maybe we can broaden the question and maybe I can direct this to Tammy with respect to items lost in classrooms.
I could check on what's happening with the artifacts from the school. I know we did recover some, but I don't know what the current status is. I can't speak to the insurance settlement though. I'm not sure if Scott Glenn or maybe someone from the county can say more about what's happening with the insurance settlement. I would if the question is, did teachers have classroom personal items in the classroom? Are they going to get reimbursed for that? I don't know. I don't think it's likely, but that's actually an insurance question.
Yeah, I'm assuming that was the spirit of the question. So for the attendee who asked that, if we misinterpreted the question, please, ask a follow-up so that we can make sure that we really answer your question in the spirit that you intended. Okay, so I see that some of our panelists are actively working to answer other questions in writing. So while that's happening, I'm going to go back to some of the questions that have already been answered in writing and ask them again to our panel verbally so we can make sure that folks have access to this information if they're not able to view the Q&A box. So there's a Ho'okumu Hou question about the compatibility of the program with DHHL. So the question is, in the August Zoom, it was mentioned that that there would be an FAQ added to the Ho'okumu Hou website regarding DHHL, but nothing has yet been posted. And so just for those of you who may not have been in that particular meeting, if I'm remembering correctly, I think the nature of the questions were mostly around whether you could use the first-time homebuyer opportunity program funds to purchase a house on Hawaiian Homes. And so that, I believe, is something that is still a little bit unanswered. But Jeannie, is that something that you want to weigh in on?
It is. So the county is still coordinating with DHHL to figure out how the programs might be able to align. So we are still working on that and we'll publish information as soon as it becomes available.
Okay, thank you so much. And thanks, folks, for bearing with me while I kind of look through some of these other questions that have been answered. Oh, flood zones. Jeannie, come back. And question, are first-time home buyers restricted from purchasing in flood zones and sea level rise exposure areas?
Yeah, so as a property that is assisted with the Homebuyer Assistance Program, First-Time Homebuyer Opportunity Program, if FEMA is requiring flood insurance to be maintained on the property, then the home cannot be assisted through the program. So I do have a flood hazard assessment tool that is available. We can share that out so that everyone can look up what flood zone it's in. But the rule of thumb is if flood insurance is required, it cannot be assisted property.
Okay. think we've got time for just a handful more questions, and we might be able to get through almost everything. So a couple more questions that have come in live. What's going on with Front Street Makai properties? John, do you want to start us on that one?
Sure. I mean, it's a broad question because there's a lot of properties on the Mackay side of Front Street. Some of them are going to have a much harder time coming back than others in terms of like the permitting hurdles, and some of them have less. And I think each one of those conversations is individual, and I think that's what the planning department would say as well. Is Anna still on here from planning? She might be able to tag team this one with me. And then we've said this publicly a number of times. There are some properties that the county has started to engage with owners in terms of the potential to purchase and turn into open space if that's so desired for those owners. So those are all individual discussions with owners on the Mackay side. So I can start with that, and I'll just ask if planning department would like to add in anything in addition.
And John, pause you real quick. The questioner clarified that we're talking about the business district. The question is specific to the business district.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, when you say Mackay, I'm also thinking about the residential property. So most of the residential properties actually do have some kind of a path forward. There are a few that are really tricky. And so if there's specific questions on that, the planning department can get engaged with that. On the commercial side, those are most of the ones that we've actually offered if people are interested in a potential purchase there. Because we know how tricky it is, and there are some public spaces there that would benefit overall. But other than that, it's an individual owner's decision, and it's not just the county that's involved. I think that needs to be made clear. The State Department of Land and Natural Resources and some of the leases that went out over the water, those are all very detailed discussions that go beyond the ability to get into on this webinar, but and each one's specific to that owner. Anybody else want to jump in there?
Thank you, John. My name is Anna. I'm with the Department of Planning. Just wanted to say that for the properties Mackay of Front Street, the governor's proclamation suspending the special management area does not apply, and there is a more rigorous permitting path for those properties, but they are able to apply, but it is quite complex, and we have offered shoreline one-on-one meetings for all property owners, Mackay of Front Street, and can continue to be available for individual meetings to assess the very specific nature of each property, given their certain erosion hazards and other applicable regulations that may apply. So I know that's a very general answer, but hopefully those shoreline property owners know that we have been available to them for meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. When will Banyan Tree Park be available to visit? Could there be a weekend only option? Don't you all answer at once.
Hey, Christine, I'm sorry. I had to step away for 2 seconds. Can you repeat that question?
No problem. The question is, when will Banyan Tree Park be available to visit?
Oh, okay. So I mentioned the harbor earlier. I'll turn my camera back on. So it is somewhat dependent on how the harbor reopening goes. But when that happens, there'll be more access into and around that area. What we're working on right now is how to utilize the parking lots that we have so that it's a little bit easier to park and walk into to the harbor, and then obviously that's right across the street. There's some additional fencing that we're working on to help protect some of the areas that need to be protected that's not up yet. But once that's done, like the courthouse, for example, which is short and braced right now. We really can't have people in and around that structure, so we're going to put a fence around that one. Once that's done, and once there's some pukas and some stuff in the ground that are tripping hazards, once those are done, we do plan to make the banyan tree area more accessible to the public in coordination with the harbor activities.
Okay, thanks very much for that. I think we have time for one more, maybe two more questions. So let's see. Will the FEMA, this is, I think, about Ho'okumu Hou again. And so Jeannie, I think this is a duplication of benefits question. Will the FEMA temporary rental assistance we're receiving now, so to be clear, rental assistance is the question, is that counted as a duplication of benefit? I'll stop there. There's some clarification, but in the interest of time.
Yeah, so no, that is not considered a duplication of benefit because rental assistance is a different type of assistance being provided. Remember, the key to duplication of benefits is if the funds are provided for the same purpose as what CDBG-DR is being provided for.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Jeannie. Okay. So, oh no, there are a few more questions that just came in at the last minute. I think it looks like a handful of these are Ho'okumu Hou questions. So we'll bunch those together if we can't get to them right now, because I know we need to respect everybody's time and let people go. But if you provided your email address when you registered for the webinar, then we'll be able to follow up with you. If you're marked as an anonymous attendee, then unfortunately we won't know how to get back in touch with you. But if there's a lot of information available on the Ho'okumu Hou website that you can refer to, and then if you are asking a question about the program and you have your name attached to it, then the Ho'okumu Hou team will be able to follow up with you on some of those. Okay, so let's see, two harbor questions. One is, when is the harbor master building going to get cleaned up, excuse me? And two is, when will the harbor be open, John?
Yeah, this is something we hit on earlier in this presentation. Maybe I wasn't clear, but the Harbor Master building is undergoing demolition as we speak. And actually, they've made quite a bit of progress on it. So it is supposed to be complete by the end of October. In terms of one of the prerequisites to even be able to open the harbor was that building needed to be removed and made safe. Because it was, until last month, it was still basically in the same shape it was right after the fire. So that work, I'm happy to say, it is actively being done, and it should be done by the end of October. The other prerequisite to open the facility, now this is not opening it for everything, like boats won't be parked in there, but in terms of loading and unloading activities go, the other prerequisite was that the restroom facilities be up and operational. They still are not, and they are planned to be completed in November. The third thing that needs to happen is some of those additional areas that are either a safety hazard, like the courthouse building, and there's some just holes in the ground that we need to put fences around, and some things like that we're working on right now. That's also scheduled to be done in November. So if all of those things come together, we're looking at a soft opening later this year. That's the plan, but we're not announcing that until we know that all of those things come together. That's as plain as I can be, but that is the plan.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're gonna wrap up here. There are just a handful of Ho'okumu Hou related questions that are just still coming in at the last minute here, and we really do want to make sure that we answer all of these. So unfortunately, a couple of these questions are coming in from folks who are marked as anonymous, and so I'll just reiterate with our apologies that if you're anonymous, we won't know how to find you. But for those of you who have, your name in the question that you're attached to and you registered with good contact information for this webinar, we'll follow up on these questions and make sure we get you those answers really quickly and after this webinar. Just really want to mahalo everybody for the time this evening. We really appreciate you sticking with us and asking so many good, thoughtful questions. As a reminder, the recording of this webinar, as well as the slide deck, will be uploaded on mauirecovers.org tomorrow. So please check it out, share it with folks who may not have been free this evening to attend, but may be interested in some of the information that was shared here. And next month, we'll be back to a in-person on November 5th at the regular time and place. So mahalo nui for your time and your questions. See you next month.